Agent Kean Sterling navigated his sleek, black coupe through the bustling streets, the windows down to catch a hint of a breeze. He was in his element, a man of purpose in a city that never slept. His mission was complete, and the taste of success was a quiet satisfaction. Suddenly, a sharp, piercing siren cut through the noise, and red and blue lights exploded in his rearview mirror. Kean's hands, relaxed on the steering wheel, tightened. A sense of unease settled in. He checked his mirrors and carefully pulled over to the side of the road that a patrol car screeched to a halt behind him. The officer who emerged moved with a heavy, confident stride. His sunglasses reflected the brilliant sun, and his face was a mask of cold arrogance. He slapped the roof of Kean's car with a loud, condescending thud. Well, he drawled, his voice dripping with superiority. This looks like a stolen vehicle. Where'd you get a ride like this, buddy? Kean's jaw hardened, but his voice remained calm. Is there a problem, officer? My documents are in order. The officer laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. The problem is that a man like you shouldn't be driving a car like this. This vehicle is on the stolen list. You can't fool me. Just admit it, you stole it. He leaned against the car, a venomous smirk on his face that a cold, controlled fury began to simmer beneath Kean's calm exterior. He kept his hands in plain sight on the steering wheel, his knuckles turning white. This car belongs to me. If you'd like to see the registration, it's in the glove compartment, he said, his voice as steady as steel. Don't you move, the officer barked, his hand going to his weapon. Don't even think about it. You and your kind are always up to something. You think you can outsmart us, but you'll learn. Kean slowly raised both hands, palms out, a practiced gesture of compliance. He knew this game, and his training told him to wait, to observe, and to strike at the perfect moment. Every insulting word was a fresh spark to the fire within him. Let's see those documents, then, the officer said, his words a taunting challenge. But one false move, and I'll pull you out of there myself. Kean met the officer's stare, a cold fire burning in his eyes. Deliberately, he opened the glove compartment, first retrieving his wallet, then a gleaming silver badge. He stepped out of the car and presented them both. The officer snatched the badge, his eyes narrowing. He read the words aloud with a mocking laugh. Interagency Task Force? Don't make me laugh. Where did you steal this from? First cars, now identities? You're going away for a long time. As the officer ranted, Kean subtly adjusted his stance, allowing the sunlight to hit the photo on the badge just right. The officer's smirk wavered for a split second, then hardened into a mask of false bravado. Kean slowly slid his sunglasses down, his gaze fixed on the officer's eyes. His voice, when he spoke, was a chilling whisper. I'm telling you now, officer, you're making a very dangerous mistake. The officer let out a dry, harsh chuckle. That doesn't scare me, he spat, holding the badge between his sweaty fingers. This proves nothing. I can print 100 of these anywhere. An agent? I'm the head of the royal family. You people only know how to run and cause trouble. Kean took a deep breath, fighting for control. The officer took another step, his shadow enveloping Kean. He shoved Kean's shoulder with force, making him stumble against the car door. Listen to me, he hissed, his voice low and menacing. Even if that badge is real, you're still sleeping in a cell tonight. I'll make up a report and say you attacked me. No one's going to believe a man like you over an officer of the law. Kean's muscles tensed, his eyes remaining cold and calculating. He knew the officer had just sealed his own fate. I suggest you think carefully about your next move, Kean said, his voice firm. It's one thing to disrespect me. It's another to step outside the law. The officer leaned in, so close Kean could smell his breath. The law, he laughed scornfully. I am the law, and today, I'm going to teach you a lesson. The next shove was more violent, forcing Kean to brace his hands on the scorching car roof. His eyes, fixed and sharp, signaled what was to come. Kean snapped into action. He rotated quickly, ducking his shoulder to break free of the pressure. His arm moved with precise technique, blocking the officer's wrist to disarm his grip. The maneuver was clean and practiced. I told you not to cross the line, Kean growled. The officer, caught off guard, stumbled. His hand almost slipped from his weapon. He was shocked that this man moved with the skill of a trained combatant. But his arrogance was quicker. He shifted his weight, lunged at Kian, and delivered a swift, brutal knee to his thigh. Kian's leg buckled for a second, just enough to break his defense. "Hands behind your back, you piece of garbage," the officer roared, twisting Kian violently against the car. The officer had his cuffs out and, with an aggressive move, twisted Kian's arm behind his back. Pain shot through his shoulder as the cold metal of the handcuffs clicked shut with a sound louder than any insult. Kian was trapped, his breath ragged, his eyes blazing with contained fury. "Looks like I'm in control now," the officer sneered, pressing his mouth to Kian's ear. "I told you you'd spend the night in jail. I'll invent a report, and no judge will believe you over me." Kian's jaw clenched, the veins on his neck standing out. The injustice of it all was a bitter poison in his veins. The officer yanked the cuffs, forcing Kian to walk hunched over to the patrol car. "Walk," he spat. "Do you want me to carry you?" Kian remained silent, his eyes burning. With each step, he mentally reviewed his protocols. He knew the officer was digging his own grave. At the patrol car, the officer flung open the back door and shoved Kian with such force that he hit his shoulder against the metal frame before falling onto the hard seat. The officer slammed the door shut. The ride to the precinct was short but suffocating. Kian sat in the back of the cruiser, cuffs biting into his wrists while the officer whistled smugly. At the station, he shoved Kian into his cell. "New tenant, step right in. This is where you belong." Kian lifted his head, his gaze sharp enough to cut. The officer sneered. "An agent? Don't make me laugh. No one here will believe you." He left, but Kian's silence wasn't defeat. It was calculation. Moments later, the officer returned, grinning. "How's your cage?" he mocked, rattling the keys that Kian's voice was firm, commanding. "I have the right to one phone call." The officer chuckled, but a flicker of doubt crossed his face. Reluctantly, he dragged Kian to the wall phone. Kian dialed with deliberate precision. "This is Agent Sterling. I've been unlawfully detained at the North Precinct. An officer claims my credentials are false. Record everything and act immediately." A deep voice answered, "Give me 10 minutes." Kian hung up calmly. The officer forced a laugh. "Who was that? Your cousin?" But fear had already crept into his voice. Minutes later, the precinct doors swung open. A man in a dark suit strode in, his polished shoes echoing against the tiles. Removing his sunglasses, he fixed his gaze on the racist officer. Who is responsible for detaining Agent Sterling? The word agent hit like a thunderclap. The officer stammered, I thought he was lying. He was acting suspicious." "Suspicious of what?" the lawyer thundered. "That a black man drove a car you couldn't afford?" He slammed a folder of credentials onto the desk. "Kian Sterling is a decorated interagency task force agent. Release him now, or every second will count against you in court." The sergeant, pale with panic, rushed to unlock the cell. The cuffs fell away. Kian stood tall, smoothing his shirt, his dignity untouched. Before leaving, he turned to the disgraced officer. His words were quiet but lethal. "This isn't over. Prepare for the lawsuit. Your career and reputation will collapse." And collapse they did. Within weeks, Internal Affairs investigated. Witnesses confirmed the baseless accusations and false arrest. The verdict was merciless, a dishonorable discharge. His name hit headlines as a symbol of corruption. Friends abandoned him. Respect vanished. Alone in his home, the discharge letter trembling in his hands, the echo of Kian's voice tormented him. He had mocked the wrong man and paid for it with everything.